Welcome back to the first team. I'm Joe DeLeone. Joining me as always, my good friend Ryan Roberts. And today we're starting a new chapter on the show, if you will. Ryan and I both put up mock drafts, and I think the way that we're going to do mock drafts going forward, I think that this way is a lot better. Instead of us doing a collaborative mock, maybe we'll still do one during the cycle. But what we're going to do on today's show is we're going to read through the released mock drafts that we did on our various outlets, and we're going to talk about things that stand out to us, certain points that we are questioning or that we really like, whatever it might be. We're going to break it down and talk about these. I think Matt actually is also dropping a mock draft soon on the beliefs that Matt Sims. That's what I was told yesterday. So if that does come out, we will then spend an entire 40 minutes picking apart Matt's mock draft. Now, I actually am looking forward to that. I think we should totally do that, and maybe we shouldn't even tell Matt that we're going to do it. We should just pull it up and start.
We should send him a different script and make him think that we're talking about like some list of players, and then all of a sudden we're like, nope, pivots. We're talking about your mock draft.
I like that idea. So there was about like a week in between, I think, when we released these. So the draft order is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to start with the Rise and Draft 1.0 mock draft.
Yes.
First two picks are expected. And I don't think either of us are really we don't even need to spend time talking about this. I think that this is going to be the staple in most mock drafts. Anyone who doesn't do this is going to try to get way too freaking cute. Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears, first overall. New England Patriots, Drake Maye, second overall. And then the third pick is another one that's going to be pretty consistent. Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Arizona Cardinals. Fourth to the Washington Commanders, you have Jared Verse. So we're already a quick stopping point.
Yes.
I don't have any issue with this pick, and I think that Jared Verse is a good football player.
Why did you stop if you don't have an issue with this pick?
That's not the point of stopping. I just want to talk about it.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like offense, I know that they just moved on from all these defensive linemen, but I just feel like, and I jokingly said this to you, I remember when I looked at your mock a couple weeks ago, I feel like if they don't address offensive line and then they draft another defensive lineman early in the first round, Commanders fans might revolt. I think it's definitely possible, but I feel like that they got to go offensive line here with all these good offensive linemen on the board.
Well, Joe, let me ask you something. This is a serious question. So in both of our mock drafts, we have the Chicago Bears taking Caleb Williams as the number one overall pick to the Chicago Bears, correct? In that scenario, wouldn't you most likely outcome be that you are trading away Justin Fields in order to take in Caleb Williams?
Oh, is that what your rationale is?
I mean, that's part of the equation. Yeah. Well, no, my point is that just because you trade away a player from a position doesn't mean that you can't go back to that well to get the rookie contract intact. I mean, the thing about the Montez Sweat and Chase Young thing, well, Chase Young was a little different because he was unique because he was often injured over the last couple of years, obviously. But you trade away Montez Sweat, most specifically Washington, because he was due for a big payday, and you didn't think that he was worth that big payday with where your roster construction was currently. So you traded away an older defensive end, not old, but like older than what Jared Verse would be, obviously. And you get now the rookie contract back of defensive end, and you reset that window of winning at the defensive end position. The whole thing with projecting rosters, in my opinion, is you want to try to create a window of overall success, and the players need to match into that window. If you are taking guys and you have a very young, not great roster, but now you have to pay Montez Sweat, who's in a different type of a winning window, then that's where clash happens on a roster. Yeah. So I just think I look at the Washington Commanders. I almost called them the Redskins. That was like two names ago, dumbass. Like, come on. But I look at that roster and I say, yes, I understand what you're saying. You've just traded away two defensive ends, prioritization of different positions. We can have that conversation deeply, and it's a good conversation to have. But for me, if you're asking me, what's the biggest weakness on the Washington Commanders roster right now, outside of head coach, it's defensive end. They don't have anybody that's going
Well,
to
it's also
give them
their
out the
offensive
game.
line. I think that those things are pretty comparable how bad they are.
I mean, I look at because let me pull up
It's a
their
terrible
offensive line real
roster.
quick.
That's plain and simple.
Yes,
It's a terrible
it's a
roster.
bad
They have
roster.
they have a quarterback and some really good receivers, and that's really the only silver lining here.
That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I don't know, man. I just remember looking at that roster and I'm just like, look, can the offensive line for the Commanders get upgraded? For sure. But that's also true of 98% of offensive lines in the NFL right now because I mean Washington still has let me take a look. So, Joe, let me ask you this. I'm going to put it like this and then we can move on to the next pick, okay? Who is collectively better at their positions as bookends, okay? Who's collectively
Okay.
better? Charles Leno Jr. and Andrew Wiley, or James Smith Williams and Casey Toohill? Who is
They're all
collectively better?
bad. They're all bad. Look,
Charles Leno's still better than Eddie what I just said,
all,
though. He's still better than
I'm
Eddie
going
what
to
I just
say,
said.
we're not to
Yeah,
linger on this. I'm going to move on to
yes,
the next picks in a second, but
sure.
I just feel like that the identity for this team for so long was to draft defensive linemen and it didn't work. And that it's time to pivot when you've got a young quarterback who's showing some signs of life to get whatever you need around him for him to succeed. I don't think it's bad ideology what you're saying, and I'm not going
Sure.
to sit here and be like this is a terrible pick. It's not a bad pick. I love Jared Verse. I think that there's so many tackles on the board, and that's why I ended up going with a lineman. So we'll
Well,
end up getting to that when mine comes around.
ideally, in the perfect world, I would have loved to trade back if I'm Washington, right? Because I think they need to
That's a good
recoup picks
point.
in general because their roster is not good. And you want to talk about identity? I guarantee there's going to be a new head coach in the building next year. You can't come back to Ron Rivera for another year. It's impossible that that's going to happen. So I think just kind of restarting and kind of taking a
Mm,
step back and just recentering everything is probably the best way to go. So I wouldn't be shocked if they're a trade partner in the 2024 NFL draft because they need a whole lot of help. I mean, they need a starting corner. They need offensive line. They need defensive ends. They need a lot of spots right now for that Washington team. And I think that recouping draft capital probably is the best way to go. But I also wasn't projecting mock trades in my mock, obviously.
right. Too early to project trades. Number
Yes.
5, Chicago Bears, Keon Coleman. I had a similar pick, so I like that one. Number 6,
Okay.
Joe Alt. They need a tackle. They need to fix
Yes.
their offensive line. I really like that decision there because Alt's still on the board. Number 7, Malik Neighbors, New York Giants. Man, there's a lot of similarities between my mock and your mock draft. I love this
You
because
stole them. You stole them.
I didn't steal it.
My mock
I
draft came out first. So, yeah.
Shut up. Well, the draft order changed, so that means I was starting from scratch, and I erased all thoughts of any mock drafts prior to that from my brain.
Sure.
Malik Neighbors, number 7, I enjoy because I don't think that they're going. A lot of Giants fans were like, "Oh, their Giants need to take a quarterback." I agree. I just don't think that they're gonna do that, especially because Daniel Jones got hurt. Whenever a quarterback gets hurt, it's usually an excuse for a front office to be like, "Okay, let's build around him." They haven't had that X factor. I think Malik Neighbors could be that
Can I
X
ask you a
factor.
question? Can you ask?
Yes.
And this is partly going to go into your mock because you also have Malik Neighbors going to New York Giants, if I remember correctly. So we had
Yes.
the same pick there. If let's say for some reason Drake Maye made a tumble to 7, he was still on the board.
Oh,
You
yes.
would consider it there.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
you just don't quite value a Jayden Daniels at pick 7 is basically where we're
No,
at
no,
on
no,
that
no,
one.
no, no, no. That's actually, you know what? Okay. I personally would take Jaden Daniels. I personally would take Drake May. I
Uh-huh.
also, and a lot of people were saying that they don't think Jaden Daniels makes it to 10. I think what's going to happen is
Yep.
that we are going to have a heavy trade up. I really, really
Agreed.
think that there is going to be aggressive, heavy trade up, especially with the fact that the Chicago Bears have 2 first round picks.
Yes.
There is a world to throw this out there that the Chicago Bears end up with 4 first round picks because
Yep.
they trade Justin Fields, somebody gives them a late first, early, mid first, whatever it is. And then that 5th spot, if Jane Daniels is still on the board, somebody is going to panic move up. Or if Bo Nix is still on the board and Jane Daniels gets taken, somebody's going to panic even more because they
Right.
don't want to miss out on the only other worthy draftable first round guy, and they're going to
Yep.
move up for Bo Nix. The Bears, I think, hold. Everybody loves to question the future and the decision making. They hold so many cards to like really, really reshape this
Bargaining chip.
roster.
Yeah, they have a
It's
bargaining chip in this
unbelievable.
draft. They really do because especially in both our mock drafts, we had quarterback going 1 and 2, and if that happens, Look, I really
Chaos will happen if that happens.
it will, because I like Jayden Daniels. Have come complete full circle on Jayden Daniels, or semicircle, I guess. I don't know. But I have come around on Jayden Daniels. I like Bo Nix now. I do. I like Bo, but there's still some tentativeness to loving Bo Nix as a prospect. There's a lot of tentativeness to liking Michael Penix with his medical history and his play to the middle of the field. There's a lot of tentativeness to even trying to like JJ McCarthy as a quarterback, right? So I think that there's a chasm after QB3 in this class. So I think that the fact that if both quarterbacks go 1 and 2, there's going to be a high demand for someone to try to go up and get
Yeah.
Jayden Daniels. I would agree.
Number 8, Tennessee Titans. You go with Olu Fashanu. I had some people pushing back that I didn't give the Titans an offensive lineman. I think weapon or offensive lineman, there's no real wrong answer there. Especially depending on who that weapon is. Rome Odunze, number 9 to the New Orleans Saints. 3 receivers in the top 10. That is really, really interesting. I like that though, because they need receiver help.
They need
Derek
length
Carr,
too. They need
yeah.
length, because A.T. Perry's doing some stuff for them, but like, is he a part of the long-term plans? I mean, we'll see, right? But otherwise,
Well, he could be a good tertiary receiver. I don't think anyone
yeah,
looked at A.T. Perry and it was like, this is our number one guy. He could be like my go-to example always is like, Darius Slayton's a really good third receiver, but if he's the primary guy that's producing all of your receiving yardage, that's a little bit of a problem. So I think, A.T. Perry's a good fit, but you add a Dunze into that mix like you're talking about. I really like that.
appreciate it. I appreciate
All right,
you.
here, I'm going to push back at this one.
All right.
I don't like Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Brock Bowers here. I feel
Why?
like Trey McBride has been fine, and I
Trey
feel as
McBride's
though,
on the Cardinals, so
or not Trey McBride. Who's the
Kate Otten. Kate
Kate
Otten.
Otten's
I
been
like Kate Otten.
fine. He's not
Yeah.
been crazy good or anything. Brock Bowers is obviously a lot better, but their defense is like really, really aging out. I don't know how you don't prioritize drafting a corner or an edge rusher or some sort of defensive lineman, because that defense is really starting to collapse, and I think it could be really bad. And this pick is going to be a lot further back potentially if
Do
they
you
end
know,
up making the playoffs, but still.
do you know why, Joe? Do you know why I did this? Well, two
Why?
parts.
Why?
One, Brock Bowers needs to go in the top 10, man. He has to.
Oh,
He's
come on.
so good.
Don't just throw him in there because
He's
they
so
think he's going to
good.
go in the top 10.
That's one. Two, pass game weapons for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans has been very vocal, and there's been a lot of chatter about his potential future with Tampa Bay kind of ending here soon. And
Okay.
Chris Godwin gets hurt all the time. So I looked at them and said, I'm going to get them the best pass game weapon that's on the board right now, and that's Brock Bowers. Because I don't think it clashes with Kate Otten, because Kate Otten's a very more of an inline traditional style tight end. You can use them both
Okay.
together. And also, I could put Brock in the slot. I could put him in boundary at times. I can move him around and let him just be a versatile chess piece as a pass game weapon. So I just wanted to get them a younger pass game weapon, because they've had a little bit of injury, and who knows what the future of Mike Evans is on that team.
Number 11, Las Vegas
Yes.
Raiders, Jayden Daniels. Raiders feel like one of those teams that is, I think they're a lock to be in the market for any quarterback, because
Yes.
new head coach, they're not tied to Jimmy G. Aiden O'Connell has been fine, but if that's your long-term solution at quarterback, you're screwed. Chargers, Nate Wiggins at number 12. That also feels like one of those picks that's just going to be constantly mocked. Either him and McKinstry end up going to the Chargers. 13, this is another really common one, and I think it's going to be put out there. The Bills taking a wide receiver, Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
I like that you threw him in there in the first round. 14, Dallas Turner, Denver Broncos. They need defensive help, so you can really go with anyone. Seattle Seahawks, Cooper DeJean, cornerback from Iowa. 16, Los Angeles Rams, Lietu Latu from UCLA.
Yep.
17, Cincinnati Bengals, Kalen King, cornerback from Penn State. 18, Arizona Cardinals, Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback from Alabama. I don't really have any issues with any of these. 19,
Good.
Bo Nix, quarterback, Oregon, for the Atlanta Falcons. 20.
You hate that? You don't hate that? It's okay. It's okay.
No, because I think they're going to take a quarterback no matter what, because they're desperate.
Agreed.
I don't have any problems with that one. Green
Okay.
Bay Packers, Talise Fuaga, Oregon State. they have to go offensive line. I had some people pushing back that I had them taking an offensive lineman. I'm surprised that you have Fuaga falling this far. I think that there's going to be more offensive linemen selected early than you have right now in this mock.
It's possible. I think the depth of this class is fantastic. I look as Fuaga as a top 20 player in the 2024 NFL draft right now, Joe. And I mean, there's possibility that he rises. But the one thing that's a little bit weird about Fuaga's projection is that he is a right tackle for Oregon State, right? Like he hasn't played any left tackle during his career. So you are a little bit pigeonholed as far as one, the conversation is going to happen. And this is going to happen with JC Latham. It's going to happen with Amarius Mims this year. Can they play left tackle? Right? Can they play left tackle? Because although right tackle is become more important than it once was, blindside is still the most important position on the field or for an offensive lineman, I should say. So I just think that right tackle only type of mantra that he might have on him might push him down just a little bit. That's just kind of my thought process early. We'll see though.
21 Minnesota Vikings, Jer'Jon Newton. I feel like that there was no correct pick really for the Vikings because their roster's actually
Vikings. I hate picking for
the
Vikings.
Well, right. Also, Vikings fans for some reason are never really happy with whatever decision you make. Yeah. Indianapolis Colts, Emeka Ibuka at number 22 for the wide receiver out of Ohio State.
I actually didn't love that pick. I didn't love it. I love Emeka Ibuka, but the one thing that I thought clashed a little bit there, but I was going to make it work, was him and Josh Downs. I think are going to play a similar role differently, but they're going to play a similar role. I would have loved if my mock would have fell that Brian Thomas was there instead, because then I say you got big body Michael Pittman outside, but then you got big body speed in Brian Thomas outside, and then you got Josh Downs working the slot. That would have been ideal for me.
Good receiving room.
Yes,
it's a good receiving room.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Steelers, number 23, Amarius Mims, offensive tackle from Georgia. I still don't know if he's declaring or not. Number 24, Houston Texans, Troy Fontanu. Him going to the Texans, the interior offensive lineman from Washington. Man, he's going to be like a really fun player just to include in these mock drafts, because it's just, if somebody needs offensive line help at from right tackle all the way into center, he can go, I feel like, in any of those spots. Here's another really common one that I think we're going to get a lot. Adonai Mitchell, 25, Kansas City Chiefs, the wide receiver from Texas. We're probably going to get a deep threat speed receiver for the Chiefs because they've spent too many day 2 picks on those types of guys, and they haven't necessarily panned out. They need a better player.
It's the lowest yards per completion and yards per attempt this year of Patrick Mahomes' career. So they need to find some ability to create explosive plays. And A.D. Mitchell, obviously, I'm not there with A.D. Mitchell as far as being a pure number 1 receiver on the next level, but Kansas City needs to find some explosiveness and big playability at wide receiver, and that's what AD brings from Texas.
Home stretch here, number 26, Jacksonville Jaguars, Quinyon Mitchell. Unique for you to include him in the first round. I think that he's going to be a riser. That's not like a shot. I'm just saying, I don't think a lot of people even really know who Quinyon Mitchell is. That's one of those picks where somebody who's like not really paying attention and they're a fan of the Jaguars come in and read the mock draft and they go, you're guy from Toledo, are you kidding me? And then you're sitting there like, have you watched him play? You're just calling me an idiot because he's from Toledo.
Well, that, Joe, and then he's going to go to the Senior Bowl. He's going to lock stuff down all week, and then he's going to run 4.39 at the combine, and you're just going to be like, yup, Quinyon Mitchell's really good.
Number 27, Dallas Cowboys, Barrett Carter. Didn't he decide to go back?
He did. So this was a few weeks ago before he declared. This is one spot. I mean, Joe, I was grasping at straws, man. Leighton Vander Esch got hurt, and the linebacker class stinks on ice. So that was the one where I
almost did Edgerrin Cooper for that pick, and I was like, I don't like that. And then I did Tyler Nubin, which I hated even more. And oh my god,
they're also a kind of a weird team to mock for because they actually have a pretty good roster, man. They maybe another wide receiver, maybe I don't know, replace Michael Gallup, but I mean otherwise I don't know.
The problem is they need to take another defensive tackle because Mazi Smith sucks. But if you take another defensive tackle, I would argue that most people would get really upset. Last couple picks here. Number 28, Cameron Kitchens for the Detroit Lions, the safety from Miami. I watched him 2 days ago. Love him so much. He's such a good football player. San Francisco 49ers, J.C. Latham, offensive tackle from Alabama. Really good piece to their offensive line. Number 30, Baltimore Ravens get Terrion Arnold, cornerback from Alabama. That feels like a Ravens pick.
Yes, it does.
Freaking barf. Miami Dolphins, Kingsley Suamataia, offensive tackle, BYU. So unbelievably overrated. And then the last one.
I put it in the RPM chat the other day, Joe. I'm just going to be a little higher on Kingsley Suamataia than you guys are, and I'm okay with that. I'm betting on the traits, man. I'm betting on them. The traits are there. The traits are there.
You and I agree on a lot of things, but I'm telling you right now as we go through this process, and I don't really like heckle's not the right word. I don't give you a lot of shit for some of your analysis because you've been doing this longer than me and you've taught me a lot of stuff. But I 1000% I am going to give you a hard time about Kingsley Suamataia.
That's fine. I can defend myself. I'm a big boy, man. There's a lot of talent to work with there, and I will develop that talent. I'm okay.
Number 32, Denzel Burke, Philadelphia Eagles. I didn't really even totally consider him in the first round. I haven't watched him. I got to watch him still.
So much better in 2022 or 2023 than he was in 2022. He was a below average corner for Ohio State. 2023, he was quite good. I heard he might head back though. That's the one thing with like these early mock drafts is like you're doing it before the declaration period, and some guys are going to go back to school. Like we'll see. Kingsley Suamataia did declare already though, so there you go, Joe. There you go.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, your turn.
All right, man. I've been waiting for this. I'm about to absolutely own Joe on his Joe DeLeone's 2024 NFL Mock Draft 1.0. You can find
it was the first thing in the Google search for like a couple days if you typed in 2024 mock draft.
It's so cool, isn't it? Like the SI stuff, the SEO, whatever.
I know.
It is really cool. So you can find Believe now on the Fan Nation network on Sports Illustrated. So you can find it there. Joe DeLeone's mock drafts. Number 1 overall, Chicago Bears quarterback Caleb Williams, USC, same as me, as well as number 2 pick, absolutely the same, Drake Maye, quarterback of North Carolina to the New England Patriots. Arizona Cardinals at pick 3, taking Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver, Ohio State. We had the first 3 exact picks, Joe. First 3 exact.
I think that those are all no-brainers.
Yeah. Right now, I mean, there's going to be something that throws a wrench in there, but yes, as of right now, I would agree with you. Washington Redskins at 4, taking Joe Alt, offensive tackle for Notre Dame. Oh, what did I say?
Redskins.
Did I say Redskins? I'm sorry. Washington Commanders taking Joe Alt, offensive tackle, Notre Dame.
Yeah, we had this debate already.
Hey, if they want to take an offensive tackle over taking a defensive end, I have no issue with it. I'm a Joe Alt OT1 guy, so I'm all right. I'm all right with it. I'm good with that one.
Okay.
Number 5, another same one. Chicago Bears taking Keon Coleman, wide receiver, Florida State. Joe, I think we're going to end up being higher on Keon Coleman than some people, based upon some chatter I've heard recently. Not from NFL, from the media side of things. I've seen several people that are lower on Keon Coleman because of
who?
I mean, I don't want to throw people under the bus on the podcast like that.
Are they people that you and I?
They're reputable. They're people that I respect too. A couple of them that I really do respect, and they're
we don't count the random draft goobers that think that they're full-time analysts.
So there's questions about Keon Coleman as far as amount of separation he creates down the fields, and I'm not one. I just think that
I'm not worried about that.
I'm not worried about it with him either, just because he's
it's
so
good.
We
were doing the same thing we did with Drake London, where a lot of the people that didn't like Drake London
I love
like,
Drake London,
he doesn't create enough separation, but it's the way that he uses his body to make catches and stuff like that. And also, that is such a weapon in the NFL.
And also, winning in the air is separation. People don't include it because they just like to see route running and straight line speed, but winning in the air is separation. Now, how translatable it is full-time working against bigger, faster, stronger corners, like that's a fair question. But I also think Keon Coleman's pretty fast. I think that he is, as he becomes more comfortable and more nuanced, I think he's going to be a much better player in terms of separation, just in the traditional sense. Number 6.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, guys. No.
We don't need to linger on that one because I feel like we talked about that a little bit already.
And we're going to talk about it all draft season. Number 6, New York Jets take Talise Fuaga, offensive tackle, Oregon State. Mekhi Becton's been playing right tackle for them. Does this mean that we're done with Mekhi Becton if Talise is the pick, or are you trying him at left tackle?
I'm trying Mekhi at left tackle and
Okay.
I'm gonna because I feel like that they've been throwing and shuffling a lot of guys in there.
Yes.
I know that that's a little bit of a weird pick, but if Mackay could play left tackle, and I feel like
Yep.
he's improving. I don't know if like this past year he's since he's gotten into better physical shape. That was like the whole thing coming into the offseason is that he dropped a lot of the fat that he was carrying. I
Yes.
think he's going to continue to get better, and I think that if you put the two of them in one offensive line, that offensive line is going to be really good.
It's going to be massive, if nothing else. It's going to be one of the biggest
Yeah.
offensive lines that you'll ever see in your life, which is fantastic.
I literally, that's what I wrote down. I'm like, could imagine dealing with two of those tackles.
Seriously, dude. Like it's just getting around that mass is just not an easy thing to do. So you had number 7, another same exact one. New York Giants taking Malik Neighbors, wide receiver LSU. That's just what he's just
Wait,
the
Mekhi Becton's listed as the left tackle for the Jets.
Oh, he's playing left now? I thought they moved him to
Yeah.
right. I could be wrong, but who's playing right tackle for them?
Carter Warren. That was why I looked
There
at
must be an
told him-
injury there. There has to be an injury there. Has to be an injury.
But the point is that Mekhi
yeah.
can play left tackle, and he's done it.
Oh, yeah.
That's
No,
the
he's
takeaway there.
He's played more left tackle in the NFL than right tackle. I just thought they had moved him over to right tackle this year, but I guess there was an injury or something that happened.
Yeah.
But Malik Neighbors, I think, is the perfect pick for the New York Giants, which is why I had it as well. He's what they need, man. They need an underneath separator that also has the ability to stretch vertically. Like they just need that all around wide receiver. They haven't had that guy since Odell Beckham Jr., and they need that style.
They need a guy. The key thing here is they need to spend early draft capital on a guy that they know has production, and on top of that, the traits to succeed and to produce in the NFL. He checks every box to be a top 10 pick. The only reason why he's the third receiver is because Keon Coleman and Marvin Harrison exist, and the Bears are not going to take Malik Neighbors because they already have a similar style player in DJ Moore. So it doesn't really make sense to they need a bigger framed guy, which is why Coleman makes sense for the Bears, and that needs to be accounted for.
That's fair. No, I completely agree, which is why I kind of had it the same way. I mean, I always prioritize it. If I have 3 great players at the top of a class and 2 of them are bigger than the last one, I mean, I'm just always going to prioritize size if everything's equal, personally.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing here, too, with receiver is that it's really rare these days to get these big receivers, these throwback style receivers that can play at a high level because a lot of these guys are more built like Tyreek Hill or built like Malik Neighbors. So when those guys are on the board, they're going to get prioritized. They just are.
Agreed. So you had number 8, Los Angeles Chargers, taking Nate Wiggins, cornerback from Clemson. I had him a little bit down in the order a couple weeks ago, but the same player. I love the fit. Makes a ton of sense. Number 9, Tennessee Titans, Brock Bowers, tight end, Georgia. Joe, he's so good. You got him in the top 10, man. Just like I was saying before, my man. Just like I was saying before.
I got pushback from this one, man. I got pushback. Not like bad pushback. There's a listener for
because they got
Okoronkwo
or whatever, a tight end. Is that what?
No, it was the logic was their offensive line so bad that they can't neglect it. But I don't think that there's any wrong answer. And I also think that people love to just say that Brock Bowers is Travis Kelce. He blocks. He blocks well. He's getting better as a blocker, and he's adding more weight to his frame. I think that he's just a well-rounded player you put in, and that offense is DeAndre Hopkins and Brock Bowers. You can come back around in the second round, get an interior guy, and feel a little bit better about your situation. Plus, they have the most cap room, so spend the money in free agency.
All right, man. All right. Don't get too uppity on this one. All right.
I will. I'm passionate about this. I would love to see him on the Titans.
It would be really fun with your boy Will Levis. Number 10, Atlanta Falcons, Jayden Daniels, quarterback, LSU. I mean, I think this is the ideal scenario for Atlanta Falcons. They were down in my order because they were at the top of the NFC South, I think, when I had done my mock draft, but now they are obviously coming back to reality a little bit. I mean, it would be an ideal situation. I gave him Bo Nix at 19. 10 with Jayden Daniels is a fantastic selection, obviously.
This is really funny because I didn't realize this when I made the pick, but LSU fans all hate the Falcons because they're all Saints fans and hate the Falcons.
Georgia, right? Too right.
Yeah. So there are a lot of mental what's the word I'm looking for?
Gymnastics.
A lot of mental battles, gymnastics to rationalize that because it's going to be hard to root for him.
You had Green Bay Packers taking Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle, Penn State. I don't hate the offensive tackle selection, especially a true left tackle, because look, man, David Bakhtiari was one of the best left tackles in the NFL for a long time, but my guy just can't stay healthy. Like, you need to turn the page at left tackle at some
Yeah.
point here full time. So, yeah. And they actually have a decent right tackle right now. And I think Zach Tom's playing pretty well. The Wake Forest kid that was like a two or 3 year pro at
Yeah.
this point now. So, yeah.
Well, that's the weird thing with the Packers is everyone does the whole, oh, well, they keep drafting these guys late and they end up being good. Like, yeah, that's
Yep.
fine, but you can't sustainably. There's a reason why your offensive line's been so murky this year is because
Yes.
sustainably you can't rely on that. Yes, they could have probably taken a defensive back or something, but do that in the second round.
Number 12, Las Vegas Raiders. You took quarterback Bo Nix from Oregon. So we literally had the same 2 quarterbacks to the same 2 destinations, just flipped. So you had
Yeah.
I had Jayden Daniels going to the Raiders and Bo Nix going to the Falcons. You had Jayden Daniels going to the Falcons and Bo Nix going to the Raiders.
Can I just have to say this before we move on from this pick?
Yes.
I haven't I've obviously seen Bo Nix play.
Yeah.
I haven't fully evaluated him and done my report on him yet. I get so many Kenny Pickett vibes, and that's not a good thing from Bo Nix. I'm just going to put that on the table.
I don't see Kenny Pickett. I still have my reservations because, look, man, Bo was in the perfect situation in the perfect system at Oregon. It was perfect for him.
Well, that's the comparison for me.
Of,
It's not a talent comparison. It's
okay.
a guy, an older player who was really boosted by the team that he was on.
That's fair. That's fair. But I mean, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but I think that with number 12, the Raiders have to take a plunge at a quarterback if there's one on the board. So 13, Seattle Seahawks, Jared Verse, edge, Florida State. Way too low, Joe. Way too. I'm telling you, man. Verse is a good player, man.
I know he is, but I think that where you and I look at this draft differently is that I foresee a run on tackle that is going to drive the corners and the edge rushers down a little bit.
It could. I'm surprised you didn't have JC Latham in your top 10, man. I know you're in love with that guy now. So.
All right, shut up.
Number 14, New Orleans Saints, Latu, edge, UCLA.
They're one of the worst teams in sack production this year.
Were they? Okay. All right.
Yeah. I didn't know that. They took Foskey, but if you think about a different type stylistic guy to throw into the mix opposite of Foskey, and my big thing is how much longer is Cam Jordan going to be around for?
Well, he's doing his podcast stuff now too, dude. So he's getting ready for life after football. So.
Right.
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, hey, anytime you can add a pass rusher, I did not know that they were this bad in sack production. Though I'm looking at your little excerpt here. It's pretty wild, man. They were one of the best sack teams a couple years ago. I mean, remember this was several years ago now, but do you remember when they had Cam Jordan and Trey Hendrickson and those types
Sheldon
of
Rankins and all those guys?
Oh man, that defensive line was sick, man. And David Onamata, I don't even know if he's on the team anymore, but that Akeem Hicks was probably on that team too at that point. That defensive line was dumb. That was a stupid defensive line. Number 15, Denver Broncos. Broncos? That was a weird way to say Broncos. Kool-Aid McKinstry, quarterback, Alabama. So who's playing opposite of them right now? I know they have Pat Surtain Jr. Do they have a big need?
It wasn't. Let me pull it up really quick.
I gave him a corner as well, I think. But yeah.
No, you gave him Dallas Turner. So
gotcha. Yep.
I just think that they're also one of the teams that I believe they're in the bottom 5 in terms of pass yards allowed. So they're Fabian Moreau. I'm not. Fabian Moreau is not
former
a
Washington football team great Fabian Moreau. Yeah,
he's not a full-time answer.
No, he's not.
They need to take somebody else.
That's fair. I gave him an edge because I know that they are in a little bit of a transitional period with with their outside pass rush right now. But yeah, I mean, either way, you got to improve the pass defense in general. Yep. Number 16, Pittsburgh Steelers, Troy Fontanu. Guard, tackle, interior player, whatever, out of Washington. Joe, so I gave him an offensive tackle to bookend with Broderick Jones because I think that Broderick Jones is actually playing pretty good football for them so far with what they're playing. I know the biggest pushback that Steelers fans are going to give you is that they need a center. That's going to be what they're going to say. We need a center.
Yeah, but you're not going to take one that early. You can come back in the second round and get one.
Trent Furtado can play center. He can play anywhere he wants to
Well,
play.
that's my biggest thing with him, and why
Yeah,
I think that's one of those picks that I really love, because their offensive line's not necessarily bad, but it's
yep,
lacking talent, so it's not been playing as good as it could, and it needs to improve. You take Fontanu, and you can figure out he's a movable piece that I feel like you can
sure.
figure out where he fits best.
He can play 4 different positions. I agree.
Yeah.
Arizona Cardinals, Kalen King, cornerback. Penn State, I am a big Kalen King fan. I'm good with that selection there. Cardinals need outside corner help and inside cornerback help as well. Buffalo Bills, Roma Dunze, wide receiver Washington. We both had them taking a vertically oriented outside receiver. Makes a ton of sense. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dallas Turner, edge, Alabama. At that spot, I think you have to take Dallas Turner because at number 19, with that traits that he has, if he hits, he's going to be very good.
Mm.
Joseph, you grew up here, man. Number 20, Minnesota Vikings, Cooper DeJean, cornerback, Iowa. You
They
hated
didn't.
Cooper in the preseason, man. You hated him.
Yeah, I watched him, and
He's
I
good,
still get
man.
I gave
He's
him a top
good.
50 grade. I wouldn't be
Okay.
shocked if he doesn't fall out of the first round, but he's a he's a good athlete. I saw a little bit better play from him. I just don't see, pure lockdown capability. I almost wonder if he ends up getting drafted and they play him in the slot and then they use
Good.
him kind of like all over the place. I don't know if I see outside corner for him. It just feels weird putting him at outside corner.
He can play it in the right system. I mean, he already made Will Compton's all whites team, by the way. I don't know if you
Yeah, I
saw
saw
that.
that. Well,
So
there's not a lot to choose from.
yeah, that's very true. I mean, but Iowa keeps pumping him out, man. Riley Moss and the Cooper DeJean in back-to-back years. So
Yeah.
hey, buddy. Los Angeles Rams, J.C. Latham, offensive tackle, Alabama. Joe, I don't love that pick as a Rams fan because the one best spot of the offensive line for the Rams is Rob Havenstein at right tackle.
Yeah, but how old is Rob Havenstein?
He's not that old, dude. He might be 30. Like, he's not that old. Rob Havenstein's not that old. I'm telling you.
31.
Oh, okay.
Look. You
Okay.
got to just take a lineman, and he was the best on the board. Maybe you go
You need
Marius
a left
Mims there.
tackle. You need a left tackle, though, man. I don't know.
I don't know. I like that pick. I think that I'm a. Have you watched JC Latham? Have you done his tape this year?
Not fully yet. Not fully yet. No.
I was very pleasantly surprised. His second half of the
Mhm.
season was unbelievable for me,
Mhm.
and I just think you throw him in there, and he's got such a big ass, and he's just gonna be a great run blocker. He's gonna be really locked down in pass protection. Probably better at right tackle because I don't know if he moves. He moves really well, but not to the way that I want to. Left tackle moving. But
Yeah.
I think he's gonna be such a good pro, man.
You're big on the asses, man. You're an
Yeah,
ass man.
I
Indianapolis
am.
Colts 22 taking a Marius Mims offensive tackle from Georgia. Hey, offensive lineman, and Marius Mims at 22 is
Great
talent wise
value.
is a huge value. Jacksonville Jaguars 80 Mitchell, wide receiver from Texas. I also like this one, Joe, because Jacksonville Jaguars quietly have had a lot of inconsistencies with their wide receiver position. There's been a lot of drops on that team this year and a lot of inconsistencies, so I'm good there. Hate this pick. We already talked about this one. The next one, 24, Cincinnati Bengals take Jordan Morgan, guard from Arizona.
Okay. I
Okay.
have a top 50 grade on him. I think that
Okay.
he is a flexible player who's
Uh-huh.
strong, and he doesn't have the problem is I think his tape looks bad because he's not a tackle. He can't move well enough to play tackle. They need line help. They missed the boat
Uh-huh.
on all of the guys that were on the board. I don't think that
Uh-huh.
they need to take a center.
Uh-huh.
So you take Jordan Morgan and you plug him in at guard. I don't
Okay.
think that it's a reach, and I admitted that it's a
Yes.
reach.
I'm glad you
I
admit
don't
that. I'm glad you
I
admit
don't
that.
but at the same time, how many times do we see teams in the back end of the first round just say, "Okay, we have an early second on this guy. We feel like we don't want to wait and find out what's on the board at the end of the second round. We
Sure.
have to plug this spot."
I hear you, man. I hear you. Just wouldn't be a pick that I would make. But we'll see what happens.
Whatever.
25, Kansas City Chiefs. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver, Ohio State. We already talked about the need at wide receiver there. Different type than what I gave them, but I'm a big fan of Emeka. I have been for a long time, so no pushback there. Houston Texans, Braylon Trice, edge, Washington. Man, everyone forgets about Braylon Trice, man. He's just a
You
really
even forgot about him.
I well, I just didn't have a bunch of edge needs at like the later stages of the first round. I'm pretty sure I didn't have like any go my last 10 picks or so, but he's kind of a just lunch pail, get it done. Not super flexible, but powerful hands, speed the power converter. I think Braylon Trice is going to be a very productive football player in the NFL for a lot of years. So I'm good with it. Dallas Cowboys 27. Tyler Nubin, safety, Minnesota. I think you picked the wrong safety, Joe, if you're going to pick a safety.
I should have taken Cam Kitchens. Afterwards, I was like, I should have, because I watched Cam Kitchens after I put this in. And then I was like, man, Cam Kitchens is so much better than Tyler Nubin. I don't know why I did that.
I don't even dislike Tyler Nubin. I told you this before, but like I did not like Tyler Nubin's 2022 film. I thought 2023 film was good though, and I'm good with him as like a top 50 to 64 type of player. Just at that spot, it's just a little bit too rich, and yeah, I just think there's the wrong safety there. Detroit Lions 28, Jerzon Newton, defensive tackle, Illinois, probably the best
That's
player on
such a
the
good
board.
fit. That's one of my favorite picks in this mock. Like, could you not come up with a better pick? Like, that is stylistically such a good selection for Dan Campbell, and he would be a menace on that defensive line.
I like how you're just subtly patting yourself on the back with your pick there. I like it though, man.
Yeah,
I like
damn
it.
Right I am. Damn right I am.
29, Miami Dolphins. Jackson Powers Johnson, center from Oregon. I have not watched Jackson Powers Johnson in depth yet, Joe. But I will say Miami needs a center option because Connor Williams is banged up, and I believe he's also a free agent. Liam Eichenberg's playing center for him right now. So
right.
You need a center. So if he's good, I'm good with it. If he's good.
He's another one of those guys that is a day 2 pick for me, but it feels like when the Dolphins come around, they don't want to miss out on that possibility to get Frazier or I'm thinking, crap, who's the other kid that I had ranked high that's a center? But
Center.
I not Van Pran.
Haynes from UConn, right? Christian Haynes.
Oh, Christian Haynes is another one. Yeah. But Powers Johnson, I think, is just a really high floor player. And when you're a team like the Dolphins, you need high floor at the position because you just need somebody to play well enough and let the rest of the group go to work.
I can't believe Liam Eichenberg's playing center. That's wild.
Terrible fit.
Number 30, Philadelphia Eagles. Terrion Arnold, cornerback, Alabama. We had him roughly in the same spot, and Philadelphia Eagles cornerback play has not been good this year at all. Old. James Bradbury's been terrible this year, man. After playing pretty good last year, he's awful this season. 31, San Francisco 49ers. McKinley Jackson, defensive tackle, Texas A&M. It's a little bit of an odd one. Slightly odd, but...
Why? Wait, why?
Just a little high for what McKinley Jackson is as a player, in my opinion, from a style perspective. I think that you can find what McKinley Jackson does in the second or third rounds. You know what it reminds me of?
That's a good point.
Like Mozzie Smith last year for Dallas. I didn't hate the thought process of it, but I looked at it and said, why wouldn't you just take the Wisconsin defensive tackle, Keanu Benton, that I love so much, in the second round compared to taking him in the first round? Like, why would you do that? That just wouldn't make it. That just didn't make any sense to me personally.
The Niners, for me, were just a team that I felt like had a lot of needs figured out already. And the interior of their defensive line is, I think that Javon Kinlaw's contract's got to be up kind of soon. And like there's still
anyway. So.
Right. I think stylistically going to somebody who's a little bit more compact and is just they don't need an interior rusher. They just need somebody who takes up space and occupies blockers. And I think that McKinley Jackson can do that. Again, my whole back end here is just teams reaching on day 2 guys that they want to fill a need. I just think that there is this huge bucket of guys that are going to be day 2 picks that could go in the end of the first round.
That's fair. That's fair. And we end the mock draft here with number 32, Baltimore Ravens selecting a running back, Trey Benson from Florida State.
You hated that.
I actually did watch Trey Benson about a week ago, Joe. I kind of feel the same way I felt about Trey Benson in the preseason of like, he's a really good player, but he's not a player that I'm drafting in top 32 selections. Like I'm just not there with him that spot. You know what I mean? That's just kind of my pushback.
Here's my thing before we wrap.
Yes.
If they finish as pick 32 and they win the Super Bowl, and the same goes for the 49ers, trade out candidate. I don't think that they've really got like a glaring need that needs to be addressed that's worthy of being selected this high. But if they were to take a player, I look at their running back situation. Keaton Mitchell's been great. Like Gus Edwards is okay.
Keaton Mitchell also tore his ACL, I think, this past week. So, yeah.
I look at the possibility that they have rotated so many different guys and at the running back position, and the fact that they're able to get production out of a UDFA and Keaton Mitchell. Imagine
Yep.
if you put in a talented running back like Trey Benson, who has that home run threat, who's got good vision, who's a 3-down back, who's flexible. Imagine running those read option type plays that they run right now with him. I think that
Yep.
that would be so. He would be offensive in the offensive rookie the year conversation if he's a
It's
Baltimore
possible.
Raven.
It's possible. I can get there with that. Yeah, I don't disagree with what you just said there. I think he could be in that conversation because he would be a. It's almost like a. It's almost like a luxury pick for a really good roster.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because they have gotten by and gotten some pretty good production out of guys that aren't highly drafted and aren't like that type of dude. So, I mean, yeah, if he fit in there, I think he could do really well. Last note for me, Joe, is Keaton Mitchell would not have been an undrafted free agent if someone would have listened to my scouting report on Keaton Mitchell. Well, that's another conversation for a completely
Yeah,
different day.
that's definitely what it was. At Joe DeLeone and at Rise and Draft, folks, thank you for tuning in. We will be back with more. Enjoy your holidays.